Hey y'all, this is Erica with BlacksandPeriodFilms.com, the place to talk about black characters in period films, series, historical fiction, and theater. Today I want to talk about an upcoming production called Gun and Powder. Gun and Powder takes place in 1890s Texas and is the story of Mary and Martha Clark, African American twins who pass as white and become notorious outlaws in the Wild Wild West. And they do this so that they can help their mother settle a sharecropper debt. And so we know historically the average sharecropper was stuck in a very vicious cycle of debt, which meant that they could not pay their employer back, and so they would basically end up being sharecroppers for their entire life. Um, their bond of sisterhood, however, is tested when Martha falls in love with a black man and Mary falls in love with a white man. And that, of course, would pose a problem because they're trying to pass as white, and not to mention the fact that they're outlaws. So the two actresses that are playing the sisters are very talented ladies. They already played sisters. They played Eliza and Angelica Schuyler in the first national tour of Hamilton, and Martha is being played by Raver-Lampman, and Mary is being played by Solea Pfeiffer. And I've heard both of these ladies sing. I've been online listening to the soundtrack. And besides that, I knew both ladies before this, and they can sing. Like, they're really talented. Um, this story is this is exciting to me because it's based on the family legend of the lyricist Angelica Sherry. Um, it's based on her great great aunts, and this is her first play. And so what happened was she came across a family photo album. She saw these two ladies who she thought were white, and then that is when her family told her the story about these bank robbing twins from the Wild West. So she's the writer, Ross Boehm is the composer, and Robert O'Hara is the director. The musical has 16 actors and 25 songs, and I have heard about a quarter of the soundtrack, a little bit more than a quarter of the soundtrack, thanks to the power of the internet. Um, I've heard All of Me, Freedom, Wide Open Plains, Under a Different Sun. I'm gonna put a list of all the songs up. Um, you can see the names of the songs. I've heard a little bit more than a quarter, and you can hear the song Gun and Powder in the sneak peek. And I'm just in love, really. Also heard a snippet of The Way I Am, and I think that is my favorite song so far. It's very jazzy, very bluesy. I love the lyrics to it. And according to the National Alliance for Musical Theater, each main character and community of people is represented by a different musical style, which all converge to create one unique and thrilling sonic world, a contemporary, soulful, energetic take on a Western tale, featuring influences of gospel, folk, jazz, a cappella, R&B, and traditional musical theater. So this really adds to my excitement because I really appreciate musicals that include numerous musical elements and not just a stereotypical, musical theater sound. I love that sound. I'm in love with musical theater, but at the same time, I really like um, a varied sound. I like different types of musical elements being included. And so I really want a cast recording. It already has commercial producers attached, which is great news for us, because I want a cast recording, as I said, and I want a chance to see it on stage. Maybe it'll come to Atlanta and then I can go and see it. In a Washington Post article by theater critic Peter Marks, director Robert O'Hara is quoted as having said, "You don't have black and brown bodies in a musical set in the late 19th century. I often say people think of black and brown bodies in slavery and then in civil rights and nothing in between." And I fully agree with his statement, especially as a period film fan. There are not many period films, series, plays taking place in the 1890s. If it's taking place during slavery, it's not even, they don't even consider the full historical landscape of slavery. They just usually have it taking place in 1840s, 50s, or 60s. They forget that there were slaves in the 1700s in America. They don't really, they rarely ever talk about slavery in the early 1800s. It's always 40s, 50s, and 60s. And then when we talk about the civil rights movement, they always cover 50s and 60s. They don't talk about the achievements that occurred in the 1920s, the 1930s, or the 1940s. So there's usually time periods that they're going to cover. And while I love those time periods and while I like those stories that are being told, I really believe that there are so many more period films to be made. There are so many more theater shows to be created. And so this is just wonderful to me. Now, this version of Miriam Martha Clark's adventure is only inspired by a true story. There are no solid facts like records or newspaper articles that prove the events in this musical truly happened. But to me, that really doesn't really take away from the story, in my opinion, because I really enjoy historical fiction that takes a person or an event and creatively creates the who's, what's, whys, and hows of that story. And there are so many stories that are lost to history, especially women's stories, especially black women's stories, mixed race women's stories. And the Clark girls could be one of those stories, and they are one of those stories. So the fact that their descendant, a family member, is bringing their story to the stage, is making their name known, regardless of how historically true it is, because it is a family, myth or whatever. It could be true, it could not be, but I don't really care because it was creatively done and it looks amazing. I'm thrilled about such a fun story happening in such an underutilized time period. I have not seen it, but if you want to see it, Gun and Powder runs at Signature Theater in Arlington, Virginia until February 23rd, 2020. I've included a link to the tickets, and I'm telling you now, everything is low availability or very limited availability. And so if you want to get tickets, I say you should get them now. Everything on Instagram is looking like the tickets are going to be sold out because I'm seeing the reviews, I'm seeing people's Instagram posts, and it's looking like the musical is awesome, like I thought it would be. So if you are close, if you can make your way there, I say you should. I don't work with the musical in any way, but I'm really loving what I'm seeing, and so I'm gonna make a video. Here I am, Holly. I'm done blabbering now. I really don't have anything else to say. So after you watch the sneak peek, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you thought of it. Tell me if you have an idea or a family story or legend that you'd like to take to the screen, to the stage, make into a historical fiction. That's all I have to say. I'm leaving all the necessary links down below to the articles that I referenced. And I'm leaving a link down to the theater official profile of the musical. And so don't forget, you can reach me at blacksandperiodfilms.com. You can reach me at Black Period Film on Twitter. You can reach me at Blacks and Period Films on Instagram. And you can reach me at Tumblr, blacksandperiodfilms.tumblr.com. Thanks for listening. Have an awesome day. Bye.